An unusual technique of the sand shark, allowing it to remain invisible, rescuing the largest of modern fish, as well as creepy encounters with predators, after which it's scary to go into the water. In this episode, I'll show you these and other most interesting and frightening shark moments caught on camera. Let's go! Strange picture. And we'll start with this strange photo that a subscriber shared with me. I don't know if it's all true or not, but at least his story sounded pretty convincing. He said that he was one of the members of a research team studying the underwater world. Their duties included keeping track of the wildlife in a particular area, and because of this they often dive to the bottom and keep an eye out for sharks and other sea creatures that they'd tagged years ago. So one day, a group of scientists found a shark that had no markings whatsoever. They thought that it accidentally fell off, although this had never happened before, and decided to swim closer to it to correct this misunderstanding. But they were really surprised to notice this monster. The shark looked normal, but as soon as they swam up to it, they recognized it as a full-fledged sea demon or something equally horrible. Most likely, the scientists got a mutant, or as the less popular version says, a new shark species. Which do you believe? Write in the comments. Smile. However, do not think that only unusual sharks can be interesting. In fact, it's quite interesting to observe long-known species such as the sand tiger shark. It's worth starting with that retractable jaw right there, which looks like some kind of superhero costume with an awesome feature or something. You know, it's like an Iron Man mask that opens and closes on its own. There's probably a similar mechanism here. But it would be alright if the shark had only such a strange jaw, but it itself is a unique individual. In addition to its teeth, it can surprise us with its style of hunting, during which it simply hangs in the water and waits until the prey itself swims into its mouth. No one else is capable of this because the sand tiger shark has the ability to swallow air from the surface and store it in its stomach. In this way, it provides itself with neutral buoyancy. It no longer needs to move to keep itself in the water. Therefore, despite its size, the predator is perceived by others as nothing more than an obstacle. What can also be considered an obstacle is this inflatable boat on which people travel over sharks. One of them didn't like it so much that it decided to teach the people on board a lesson and clung to one of the sides of the transport. Those who are not familiar with swimming boats would have already passed out from panic, but there's really nothing to worry about. These boats have unique buoyancy, so there's no way the shark would have gotten to the humans, no matter how badly it wanted to. Caress with a predator. Many people know sharks as dangerous and uncompromising predators, ready to lash out at any moving target, no matter what it is. But in fact, this is nonsense, at least in half of the cases. Often sharks are perfectly sane sea creatures that do not want to harm people. If they're fed and treated properly, sharks can turn into the best pets, trusting humans fully and letting them pet and cuddle them, just like this diver did in the video. Would you like to be in his shoes? Would you want to pet a shark? It's okay to swim with a small shark, there's nothing dangerous about it, but some people have the courage to dive to the bottom with a great white shark, the one which is considered a real evil in the water, one of the largest in the world and at the same time one of the most dangerous. Many factors play a role in this. Firstly, the great white shark has a very powerful, streamlined body which allows it to easily overcome any obstacles. Two small olfactory furrows lead to the nose of the predator, which allows it to smell the slightest fluctuations in water and the smell of prey at a distance of several miles. But I'd still single out its teeth, of which there are about 300 in the jaws. They have serrations on the sides, allowing its owner to cut the prey quickly and deftly as with a saw. Moreover, all these razor-sharp teeth are located in several rows at once, so that no prey that's in its jaws cannot go unpunished. No wonder ancient people who were lucky enough to catch this predator took its teeth and made sharp and unique arrowheads out of them. An encounter to remember. A man decided to swim close to the shore. what could be dangerous about it? He just dives into the water and immediately comes out of it. Everything's good. But as soon as the guy jumped down, he immediately lost the power of speech and his hands became heavy, like stones. All this happened because a real large shark was literally a couple of meters away from him. This living monster began to circle around the man and probably think about how to eat him. But fortunately for the diver, the shore was close, and he instantly got out of it. The feeling of fear he was frozen with cannot be expressed in words, but you can feel it by this turn of the head and the area search. Did the shark catch up with him? Did it climb the stairs after him? It seems to me that it's after such cases that people forever abandon their favorite thing, which was diving from a height here. And you should understand that this was by no means the only and unique case of a shark and human encounter. Sometimes the situation's even more serious and dangerous, just like in this video. Here, people were engaged in more prepared and thorough diving in special uniforms. Suddenly, a great white shark swam towards one of them. The man barely avoided contact with it, managed to scare it, and got to the boat in one piece. It's scary to imagine how fast his heart was beating at that moment. Probably the whole life flashed before his eyes. The team immediately called on board the second diver, who was nearby, and got out of harm's way. Fortunately for them, the shark was not hungry, otherwise it would have eaten one of them right on the spot. Pig in a poke. You know, after watching those shark incidents, I finally decided that I definitely don't want to go scuba diving. Screw it. The maximum that I can do is dive to the bottom in an iron cage, and even that's what I call a pig in a poke. I mean, what if the shark gets too hungry, huh? It'll break and bend all those iron bars without much effort. What if the crew can't get me out of the water in time? In short, there are a lot of pitfalls here too, which make the process very dangerous. Nevertheless, it looks very exciting and interesting. Don't look back. That's exactly what I would confidently tell a person who's afraid of sharks and is on the same board with me, if there was a string of sharks following them. I'll be honest, this is the first time I've seen such a thing. I used to think that sharks were loners by nature, the very creatures that do not like to gather in groups and share the prey, but this case seems to be an exception. I wonder what could have attracted them so much. The extra lighting or the automatic feeding station at the back of the boat? I don't know. I came up with the latter on the fly, but I'd still like to get to the bottom of the real reason for this behavior. If you have an explanation for this phenomenon, share it in the comments. It's likely that what we saw in the last video was a marathon by the sharks, a marathon of gratitude for humans saving their relative in distress. There are quite a few human and shark encounters in history, but some still stand out. In this case, a group of professional divers from Italy went diving in the ocean near the Maldives. Near their boat, they saw a whale shark, but its body was wrapped in rope. The fish was unlikely to be able to free itself, so the Italians decided to come to its aid. They caught up with it, calmed it down a bit, and then removed the unwanted object from its large body. The fish was immensely grateful, as it would have been unrealistic for it to get rid of it on its own. Continuing the topic of rescue, I suggest we now look at other moments in the wild when animals ask for help from humans and help their congeners. This dog was stuck in some kind of cloth that served as a sunshade. A policeman saw this and couldn't stay away. He went to help the four-legged creature. The dog was twisting, turning, falling, and simply terrified. It seemed to the dog that it was stuck forever, and out of fear it moved more and more and pulled the knot tighter and tighter, but it was only necessary to wait. And so the trap was destroyed, and the dog immediately rushed to hug its rescuer. That's cute. Some get stuck more seriously. This cow, for example. The curious cow was exploring the tree, stuck its head between the trunks, and got trapped. Because of its body structure, it couldn't get out on its own. But luckily, people saw it, and together they rescued it from captivity. And here the situation was much more serious. The cow was stuck in a hollow tree. It was impossible for the cow to get out of there by itself. So the man had to go and get an axe and rescue the animal. The man very carefully chopped the tree to enlarge the hollow. The slightest mistake could hurt the cow, but the man did everything very carefully. Soon there was enough room, and the cow was free. This swan came to the Animal Rescue Center in poor condition. The bird could barely hold its head up and was completely exhausted. In the wild, it would not have lasted even a couple of days. The vets examined the swan and gave it an IV, and it wasn't long before the swan felt better. Soon, food and water were brought to it, and the bird literally pounced on the food. The bird was very hungry and very thirsty. After the meal, the bird felt even better. It was kept in the center in good condition. For a while longer, the bird lived in a spacious enclosure with a swimming pool, and soon, already healthy and stronger, it was released into the wild. Train drivers have to look carefully at the railroad tracks because not only can a large animal be on the tracks, but also a small creature. This train driver, by some miracle, managed to see a tortoise on the ties and braked right in front of it. It was impossible to leave the animal there or simply move it aside. There was a precipice below. The train driver made the right decision and took the reptile with him to drop it off at some station later. And this is a sea turtle, and it too was in a bad situation. It had a plastic fork stuck in its nose. It was showing people that it needed help, and it got it. The specialists carefully pulled the object out of its nose. Look at how long the fork was. How'd the turtle even live with it? It must have been very uncomfortable. But the important thing is that everything was resolved, and this footage was another proof of how much plastic in the wild harms animals. A resident of Thailand was driving along a busy highway when he suddenly found someone on the road. That someone was a little kitten. Apparently, the baby was running across the road, but in the middle of the road, it realized that it was an unrealistic task and just lay down, hoping to wait out the flow of traffic. But that doesn't happen on the highway. The traffic there is constant. Luckily for the kitty, the brave man jumped out onto the road and quickly rescued it. The furball quickly settled into the car and felt much better. And this wolf is already an old friend to the author of the video. They often see each other. The guy who's shooting the video comes here to help the predator with food. He brings him food, and every time Akela, as the author of the video called the wolf, waits for some goodies. This time a large piece of bacon is on the menu. Akela devoured the bacon in no time and wanted more. But that's it for today. Maybe he was right. Otherwise, the wolf would walk all over the guy and demand more and more food. The author of the following video was driving along the road and saw little ducklings. They were walking along the road, and their mother duck was standing nearby in a thicket. Apparently, the ducklings accidentally fell off the curb and were looking for a place where they could climb up. They still have little strength and cannot climb to such a height on their own. There was a risk that the ducklings would get hit by some car, so the author of the video helped them together with his friend. Together, they lifted the ducklings to the curb, and the ducklings ran to their mother. A resident of the house called a lifeguard. A pigeon was flying near the house and got its beak stuck between the wall and the roof. Poor creature couldn't pull its beak out on its own, so the rescuer had to climb up high to help it out. He carefully got the bird out and lowered it down. There, the pigeon had its nose cleaned a bit. The pigeon was then taken to an animal rescue center, but rest assured, the bird is fine. It's recovered. Is this man a real hero? No ladder, no equipment, just strong arms, strong legs, and a slippery pole that he climbed to the top. After all, that was where the pigeon was. The feathered creature had caught on something, got stuck, and couldn't fly away. Had it not been for this super climber, the pigeon would have stayed there forever. But all ended well, and soon the bird was flying again. Once again, we have an animal that got stuck. This time it was a crow. It's not for nothing that these birds are often called curious. They keep poking their nose in everything, or their beak to be more precise. As you can see, sometimes this can end badly. The bird was stuck in the fence and didn't understand exactly how to get free. Its congeners that flew above it couldn't help it in any way, so there was only hope for the man. He solved the problem, and the bird was free. This lion is painful to look at. The king of the jungle is thin. It looks like a bag of bones and mane. It's all very apathetic, and its eyes are dull. The big cat should not be left in trouble. The woman dragged it and tried to feed it, but the predator raptor had no appetite. But at least it drank, and it already felt a little better. But that's not enough. For the lion to get back on its feet, they need more serious help. So people decided to take it to specialists who will cure and fatten the king of the jungle. The author of this video is a vet. He was walking on the beach and found a seahorse in the sand. The poor creature had been washed out by the wave. It was trapped and couldn't get back. It was lucky to be spotted by the man that day. In turn, the man was lucky to see something else. The seahorse was pregnant, and as soon as it was in the water, it immediately gave birth to several babies. If you didn't see how it was, then it happened something like this. Seahorses sort of shoot with their young. You have to admit that it looks unusual. What's even more unusual is that males give birth. It's they which carry the fry, and it's they which are fertilized by a female, throwing the eggs into their special pocket. They say sink or swim, but not when you're a hedgehog. You can't do without help here. It's good that this hedgehog was spotted in time. Although hedgehogs can swim, they've not yet learned how to get out of such pools on their own. And here's another hedgehog. This spiny creature is very curious. The hedgehog was looking for something in a tin can and accidentally got stuck in it. The quills prevented it from getting back out. The man had to gently pull the baby out so it wouldn't get hurt. The rescue was successful. In 2005, an ornithologist woman named Jane found a female bald eagle named Beauty. The eagle had a deformed beak, which seemed to be the result of poachers' actions. It was decided to take Beauty for treatment and rehabilitation because in the wild, the bird of prey wouldn't last long with such a feature. But what to do with the beak? It's impossible to grow a new one. That's right, but it is possible to replace it with an artificial beak. Vets and scientists made a special beak for the bald eagle using a 3D printer. It was attached with a metal pin, and now Beauty is as good as new. She could feed herself and live a full life. But the vets didn't want to release her back into the wild. They decided to be cautious and not risk it, because with such prosthesis, the bird of prey will have a hard time in the cruel world of animals. Large, heavy draft horses are incredibly strong. They can carry huge loads and work hard for hours on end. Sometimes even such powerful creatures need help. Despite its strength, this horse couldn't get out of the muddy ditch by itself. It had to be pulled out by a crane because the horse weighed about a ton. The horse was lifted up and soon got back on its feet. The rescuers also decided to wash the horse to make it feel even better. Once again, we have a trapped one. This time, the victim of the trap was a deer. Apparently, the animal wanted to play soccer and try itself as a goalkeeper, but during the save, it fell and got stuck in the net. Joking aside, the deer was stuck pretty tight. It couldn't get out on its own, so the police had to come help. The deer was twitching at first because it was afraid, but then it realized they were helping it, relaxed, and was released. I think the goalkeeper position is not for the deer. Look how quickly it ran away. That deer is rather a winger. Looks like deer like soccer more than we thought. Here's another novice soccer player that found itself in the exact same situation. The deer's head was stuck in the net, and because it was twitching, it only made it worse by fastening and tangling knots. The man had to work hard to help the animal get free. And fortunately, everything ended perfectly. Minnie to the rescue. Cats are insanely gentle creatures that will never let anyone hurt their beloved ones and at the same time bestow upon them all affection and necessary care. A cat named Minnie in this video is no exception. Even in the middle of the night, the pet was awake and sensed danger approaching. Minnie decided to warn her owner, and so the cat came over to his bed and started stomping on it, licking it, and generally trying to get his attention as much as possible. Probably only the most balanced and calm person on Earth would not have reacted to this behavior. The owner decided to get up and go see what had happened. Maybe Minnie was thirsty. It turned out to be much more serious than that. Almost the entire bathroom was flooded. Someone had forgotten to turn the water off before they went to bed, and if not for the cat, they could have flooded the neighbors and caused a lot of damage. I think this is a perfect example of how to respond to cat signs. Even if often they mean nothing, we have little to lose from it. These furballs can care about us just as much as we care about them. A pigeon with an award. It's no secret that in the past, people often used pigeons to send important messages. Personally, it seemed to me that birds could do it because they have no choice, but as practice shows, there are unique cases in history. Cher Ami was trained for the operation by British pigeon breeders and assigned to the U.S. Signal Corps in France. In October 1918, during the Battle of Meuse-Argonne, he saved an entire battalion. On October 3rd, more than 500 men, led by Major Charles Whitsley, were trapped behind enemy lines. The Germans surrounded them in the woods, depriving them of communication. The Americans decided to occupy the hill and defend it, if they only knew what losses that would entail. Within a few days of such protection, the number of soldiers was reduced to 180 people. Realizing that something urgently needed to be done, the major sent out a carrier pigeon with a message of help. Ironically, the bird was spotted by enemy snipers who skillfully shot his wing. But sometimes even that may not be enough to break the will of the feathered creature. Cherami proved so responsible and dedicated that he continued his flight in spite of the pain. He flew 25 miles to division headquarters in 25 minutes and saved the lives of all the trapped Americans. After the end of the war, the pigeon was awarded the French War Cross and the American Peace Medal of Bravery. And everything was done so that he could return to his former peaceful and carefree life. Parrot the Rescuer. For many people, parrots are incapable of doing anything but squirming and repeating bad words to piss off their owner. You know, for the most part, that may be true, but the feathered one in the following story clearly stands out. This parrot was sitting in its cage, going about its usual business, when suddenly it smelled something strange. It got out and looked into the laundry room. Its eyes rolled in fright, and it immediately headed for its owners. The feathered creature began to shout as much as it could to attract their attention in every possible way. Eventually, the man followed his beloved feathered creature, peeked into the laundry room for the sake of interest, and realized something was on fire in their home. The couple immediately called the fire brigade, who arrived quickly, but they were unable to extinguish the flame while it was small. It took part of the laundry room with it, and even a little more, but the people should thank their parrot that the fire didn't burn their whole house down that day. A dog is man's best friend, and once again, I'm convinced of that. The following story tells us about a very young girl named Aurora. She was 3 years old and her faithful dog Max was 17 years old at the time. It's unknown either he was sent for a walk with the girl or she was with him, but the couple left the house at 3 o'clock on a Friday afternoon and never returned. The parents were worried after only an hour because it was raining and their favorite child only came out in a short t-shirt and shorts. Unfortunately, the rain played a cruel joke on them, covered all traces, and they couldn't find the dog and the girl. The couple called everyone they could to help and searched the area all night. Unfortunately, all to no avail. Nevertheless, neither parent could afford to despair. Hope lived until that last moment, and, like in a fairy tale, the silhouette of a dog appeared before the woman. She thought she was imagining it, but no, it really was Max. He called the woman after him and took her to her beloved daughter. Judging by the smell, Aurora had been lying somewhere on the hill all this time, hugging the dog. The dog didn't leave the baby's side, and as soon as the girl fell asleep, the dog took advantage of the moment and informed the parents about their daughter. It's important to note that Max was a half-blind and deaf dog, relying only on his inner feelings and sense of duty. That's all, guys. Which story touched you the most? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching, and see you later.